What is most important to you in life?
Not being stupid.
Can you hear whoever raised Peterson speaking through his mouth there? Screaming at that little boy, "Don't be stupid, Jordy!" so harshly that he is still unable to let go of that wound 60 years later. I can see the disgust in his face for himself. And for me, it's heartbreaking. This clip is heartbreaking in a way that most men's identities are heartbreaking today. Let's look at it. There are two forms of identity. The first is negative identity. Not negative as in bad, but negative as in what we're not, like negative space in art. Negative identities are a very valuable step in identity construction, usually in adolescence. We can move from, well, I'm not going to be problematic like my father, to I am a safe and stable partner and parent. Great. In adults, they become problematic, especially in groups where negative identities create prejudice, like how some people have strong negative identities of not being black, for example. That's the identity root of racism. Positive identities are the corollary of negative identities. Positive identities are about who we are. This appears pretty self-explanatory until we see that most of the positive identities culturally accessible to men today are just thinly veiled negative identities. For example, when you hear guys say, "I'm 100% straight," that is a negative identity dressed as a positive identity. The same thing is true for the whole tough guy, dominant alpha thing. These guys whose identities center around these ideas have internalized the belief that someone's going to be up and someone's going to be down, and they're trying to make sure that they aren't the ones getting dominated. This creates a cycle in communities where dominance is prioritized, where men are all trying to act tough in ways that prevent them from actually having emotional connections with one another or sharing how they feel. If everybody's trying to be the alpha, there's no room to talk about how rocky your relationship is or how you feel really unfulfilled. I know it's easy to look at that and laugh, but it is incredibly, tragically, heartbreakingly sad, not to mention profoundly dangerous. People with only negative identities, like most men, live in a fragile shell, a cage constructed of all the things that we must not be in order to be loved. And they're constantly terrified of those things breaking through that shell and revealing that they actually have no idea who they are, whether they're lovable. When you ask someone, what is the most important thing to you, you're in essence asking them who they are. You're asking what their top priority is, what defines them. So healthy people might answer, my family, or protecting the environment, or even vague things like being a good person. That's a loose but positive identity. If someone answers that question with a thinly veiled negative identity, like being dominant, or being straight, or even being white, you just learned a lot about that person. You just learned a lot. For someone to answer the question, what's most important to you, with an outright negative identity, that is an impressively forthright level of unresolved trauma. And that's what we see in Peterson here. You are very smart, Dr. Peterson. I hope that someday you learn what it is to be healed and to have a grounded, positive self-identity. And I hope that you stop harming other people by passing on your unresolved traumas. I hope that for us all.